Hi, are you ready for chapter 3? There's a possibility you looked at the subject and you saw, or no, you looked at the duration and saw that this was really quick. There's also a possibility it wasn't. I haven't found out. I haven't done it yet, but we'll find out. So this is chapter 3 of I've Never Felt Better, just one of the guys who tracked down vampires and other vampiric beings. I believe that's the title. I could be wrong, but I am reading off of that book, the one that I'm trying to say it is, even if I got the title wrong. The subject, nope. The chapter, I suck as a narrator or a reader. Definitely as a teacher. The subject, the fucking chapter is called Shia. That's why I keep saying subject, because it starts with S. The subject is Shia. It's a name of a character, clearly. Shia. S-H-E, capital A-H. No spaces. The capital H is just in the middle of the word. I felt like it fit well in the story. I hope now you understand. So anyway, let's begin. 1 minute in. Kevin. I was sitting in We'll start over. Kevin. I was sitting in a completely white room with exception of a television table broadcasting the image of my coworker, Kevin. Mild-mannered, giggly, often annoying and irritatingly chipper. Kevin. I asked what Kevin was doing on the screen, and what the word next to him meant, for I could not read it. It was in some form. I think it's called Sanskrit. Vlad turned to Jax, and they discussed amongst each other. A border started flashing red on the screen, and Jax gripped my arm. Where is this man? You know him, Jax nodded. Jax asked. I don't really know him. He's just a coworker at the Goodbyes complaint desk, I replied. Vlad smiled, baring his teeth and fangs. Unbelievable! He's been right under our nose all this time. Vlad continued to say that this explains why they never failed to capture a vampiric being at the Goodbyes. I was confused and once again asked what the word read next to Kevin's picture. Jax and Vlad walked to the wall behind them, opened an invisible white cabinet. Technically, it just didn't have a handle. It wasn't like Invisible Woman type thing. It was just like, you didn't see the handle, so they pushed it in like a magnet, that kind of thing. Nothing too fancy. And pulled out 2 weapons of unknown origin. Well, at least I didn't know where they came from. Jax pulled out another weird weapon and handed it to me, and then promised to tell me on the way. As we exited the room, the hazmat guys tried to stop me, but Jax assured them that I was no threat. Vlad and Jax hopped into the van and I reclaimed my corner spot in the back of the van. Jax came through with his promise. Jax came through with his promise and explained Kevin while prepping for battle. I was told Kevin's arcane name is Siha. I spelled it wrong. In the title, I put Shiha. In the manuscript, I put Siha. S-E-E-A-H. That is called an error or a typo or lack of editing. But I really did edit it a couple times, so, don't blame me on that. Just lack of searching for the word Shiha. There was nothing that came up because turns out it was Siha. Who knew? Anyway, I wrote this when I was 19. Enjoy, please. And that his origin remains a mystery. He was around even before Vlad. And he's not a vampire. At least not a common vampire. Kevin has the ability to walk in the day, but at night he changes. Not into a werewolf or a bat, but he actually transforms into a creature made of wood. Into a creature made of wood. I, of course, started picturing Kevin as a wooden doll, but Jax farther explained that as a wooden creature, he would stalk its prey through parks, and when close to a tree or a bush, its body replicates that of the plant form, as long as it has a wooden center. And when a person touches him, a sliver of wood would inject through the person, a few inches deep, and then drain the victim's blood. Probably should have read that quicker. And when a person touches him, a sliver of wood would inject through the person, a few inches deep, and then drain the victim's blood. Yeah, sounded better. And of course, when the sun comes up, old Kevin will be human again. I looked out the window and noticed that the night was approaching. I then looked at my watch and realized that the time was nearly 9. Kevin's quitting time, but 9 o'clock is usually a dark time of the day. It's like magic school bus learning here. I've seen Kevin at work up till 10 sometimes. I've seen Kevin at work up till 10 some nights. He even turned into a wood creature. Fuck. I've seen Kevin at work up until 10 sometimes. He never turned into a wooden creature. I pointed out to Jackson Vlad. He will only change if in direct exposure of moonlight. He never... Jack set me straight as he opened the door. Jack swung open the sliding door and told me to shoot it. I can't read. Jack swung open the sliding door and told me to shoot if I think I see Seehaw or Kevin, and that the effects are harmless to humans, so inaccurate shooting will not be a problem. Jax asked if I ever fired a gun before, and I told him the truth, which until that day was no. He told me to aim for the heart and not to touch the dials of the gun. If the shot is properly executed, Seehaw should be reduced to dust. If it's not, we will keep firing and run like hell. Vlad and Jax entered the goodbyes while I stood guard behind the black van, and that could easily be mistaken as a kidnapper's van. I know, I mistook it for one. Of course, I had the suspicion to believe this. And if I'm arrested, they would have probable cause. 2. For starters, the large silver gun in my hands and the other large guns inside the van. I laughed to myself, realizing the trouble I'd be in if I got arrested. Would I be in real trouble, or are these guys connected to the government and they'd be able to get me out of jail? Probably not with all this stuttering. Or yammering. I'll say the right. Whatever. That part wasn't the part of the story. I just thought that was funny, but I said it wrong, so it sucked as a joke. Anyway, my thoughts started to race, but were quickly replaced with a racing heart when the goodbyes front door entrance, the standard 8 glass doors, 2-story 16 window panel walk-in entrance, blasted open, sending shards of glass throughout the parking lot, followed by customers and employees. Glass continued to fly out of the entrance. I couldn't figure out why, but then I saw what appeared to be a tree branch swiping at the remaining glass and frames, knocking those 2 stories down to the now cracked sidewalk. Jax and Vlad ran out of the goodbyes with a branch hot on their tail. Vlad and Jax fired back at the branch, and Jax turned to yell to me. So if this was in a library and I was trying to read it, the kids would be getting spit on horribly, and I would be in trouble. So, again, be thankful that this is in front of my computer, and the only thing that I have to worry about is stuff shorting out. And thumbs downs, I guess. Get back in the van, Jax ordered. I opened the sliding door and quickly shut it. And then I caught a glance of something coming out of the fire and couldn't look away. My eyes followed the destructive branch as it continued to fling glass and metal towards the cars in the Goodbyes parking lot. And from out of the burning entrance, my gaze met with the wooden version of my coworker, Kevin. Kevin was no longer the cheery, chipper coworker that I dreaded seeing every day at my dull, lifeless job. But now he was something that I feared and could probably go into a wood chipper. I think anybody could go into a wood chipper if you think about it. I mean, that's how a lot of horror stories work, and there's shows where they say they got rid of that person with a wood chipper. Anyway, not the point. His face was no longer human. It was now that of a tree stripped of its bark with a grained look. His body was that of a common elm tree, except for some legs and arms in the shape of branching trunks. And one of those arm trunks continued to stretch toward Jax and Vlad as they ran to join me in the van. Fuck, I can't read. I apologize for that. Maybe if I try not to be so enthusiastic. Probably not, but we'll try. Jax swung open the passenger side window, door, and Jax and Vlad quickly climbed. Where are these words coming from? Hold on. I think I need to zoom in. That might help. There we go. Jax swung open the passenger side door, and Vlad quickly climbed inside and hopped into the driver's seat. Jax fired 2 more shots at the fast-approaching branch, and then hopped into the car just as Vlad got the car running. We pulled out of the parking lot and fled down the street. I inquired as to what happened and was told that one of the skylight windows must have been left open, causing Kevin to become exposed to the moonlight. Jax proceeded to tell me that there was no way we could take on Kevin that night, and that we would have to catch him another day, hopefully before he feeds again, which will be harder due to Kevin knowing that we are onto him. I got a paragraph done with very few fuck-ups. What about the Goodbyes new renovation? I joked, expecting to get a serious response, but instead I was told that the incident will be reported as a hallucinogenic natural gas leak. I looked out the back window to watch the plumes of smoke rise through the night sky from the Goodbyes war zone, then turned back to ask if I could go home yet. Before I could open my mouth, a beep went off through the van's radio system, reminding me of my forever lost CD player and, more importantly, relaying a victim's whereabouts. Vlad slammed on his brakes and made a sharp left through traffic, an obviously dangerous move made even more dangerous by the fact that we were on a bridge. I braced myself for impact in my little corner as we went flying off the bridge. As we neared what would surely be mine and Jax's death and Vlad's death, Vlad pressed a button behind the steering wheel, and I heard and saw 2 jets of air blast from the undercarriage, like a freaking jet engine. And we landed without even a bump, and then quickly peeled out of the grass on the road and into downtown. That was close. When we arrived at the location of the victim, Jax and Vlad stepped out and left me to watch from the van. I decided not to argue. Since the last time they went to play with wound up, since the last thing they went to play with wound up, demolishing an entire wall of a 2-story building and flinging 200-pound metal frames over a parking lot. Sorry for the burp. As I sat in the van, I wondered about Kevin. Could this victim be from Kevin? Seemed unlikely since we just left him, but maybe it was a creature like him. Then I decided whatever the creature, it might help to be armed with more than just one gun. So I snooped around the van and found a compartment on the right of the driver's seat, opened it, and out rolled a silver ball. I rolled the ball back into the compartment, and as I reached my arm inside, I felt a sort of ooze move past the right of my hand. Then I felt out the shape of a pair of binoculars, and then pulled them out. My hand was slightly coated in this blue slimy film, so I wiped it off on my goodbyes uniform, grabbed the binoculars, and looked inside them. Through the binoculars, I could see Vlad and Jack standing over the victim. I focused my lens and looked down to reveal a long black-haired, blue-eyed man with 3 furry balls on his neck. They were each a different color, one black, one brown, and one white. And blood streamed from beneath each one of them and continued down the man's neck. Thank you.